For all these gifts and blessings, we thank you, we sing your praises, and we say, Amen. I'm going to just bring this up a little bit. For a little bit of Torah. I think it took me a full year to reference my former job, but here we are. 2 years in, referencing it again. Hopkins Hillel, the job I had before this. There were two ways to see the students who came to Shabbat regularly, or to Hillel regularly. Two ways they saw themselves. Those who came regularly saw each other as friends, as good friends. They came because they were there to be in the same cohort together. Every Friday night, they knew they would see best friends and people they've known for a while and had all these inside jokes. They were inside together. But for those who did not come regularly, it felt cliquish. They saw these people who seemed to know each other from before day one somehow. Even when they didn't know each other, it felt that way to them. It felt that they were coming in without any friends, that they came in and everyone knew each other but them. It was a clique. Now, this wasn't true for those on the inside, right? For those on the inside, they weren't being cliquish. They were just hanging out with their friends. They were even welcoming. But if you were on the outside, it didn't seem that way. And that's something we worked on. And this existed in part because we like to create order out of chaos. You walk into Hillel or any building here, wherever, and you say, who do I know? And then you go sit with them. And you say, I want this table will be my friends, or this table will be my family. We try to create order out of chaos. Because that brings structure, and that brings familiarity, and that brings comfort. And that worked great for the people who had friends there, but it was hard for the people who felt on the outside. And we see something similar in this week's Torah portion, Bamidbar. It takes place in the wilderness of Sinai. Think deserts and mountains and not much rain. The portion opens with a census, counting all the fighting-aged men. It continues with a layout of the camp, the different tribal setup, the tribes, the way they are set up, with the tabernacle, the Mishkan, God's dwelling place in the middle. As Dr. Rachel Haverlock of the University of Illinois Chicago points out in the Torah, a Women's Commentary, the tabernacle complex, with its collapsible boundaries and open spaces, creates a sense of order in the unfamiliar chaos of the wilderness. So the wilderness is barren and open and desolate, but in the tabernacle, we have walls and sections and inner chambers, structure in a structureless void. We humans crave that structure and that meaning that comes with it and the purpose. The tabernacle was a place to encounter God, and it gave us that structure. Think of our own lives. Think of this space, right? We come here because we have a set time and a set place with a set liturgy to find ourselves, to find each other, and to find God. So providing structure can be healthy and positive, but sometimes that's not the case. This is what Rabbi David Greenstein of Congregation Shomrei Emunah in Montclair, New Jersey points out in a book called Torah Queries. It's an LGBTQ commentary on the Torah. He says, this tightly closed configuration of 12 tribes produced a well-defined communal space. For those within it, this was a positive factor in their daily lives, reinforcing their sense of belonging and security. But the establishment of boundaries also made it possible to determine what and who may be regarded as out of bounds, as other. Thus, for example, creating a bounded camp made it possible to send lepers outside the borders. So when you create a space to come together, that's really good. We find community and comfort and purpose when we're inside. But when we're outside, we don't feel those things, like the lepers in the camp, or like the students at Hillel. And if it's not obvious where I'm going with this, Rabbi Greenstein makes it clear. He names that for so long, queer Jews have been rendered outside the community, either by halakha, Jewish law, or by a community's social norms. For far too long, and in so many ways continuing today, LGBTQ plus individuals have been outside the camp, unable to marry in the same way, continually afraid of losing their rights, facing ostracism or persecution, emotional and physical harm. By creating community, by forming bonds, those on the inside get the benefits, but what about those on the outside? Is it possible to do both? To form a bounded community while accepting those traditionally excluded? Well, Rabbi Greenstein says it begins with one simple step: recognition. He says the need for recognition is the need to be accepted in terms of one's own self-identification. Can a community satisfy that need? I think the answer is yes. After all, a fundamental idea in Judaism is that we are created b'tselem Elohim, in God's image, recognizing each individual as divine, not despite our differences, as often people put it, but because of them, embracing them. At BJC, we just finished a year of learning and growing and adapting through the Keshet Shivyon Equality Project. It's for LGBTQ plus affirmation and equality. And one of the things we learned, we knew this, but relearned in a specific way, is that words matter. Our website and literature used to say, and I went back online, this is what it said: all are welcome, regardless of religious background, race, gender, or sexual orientation. It effectively erased key parts of people's identities. Yeah, okay, you're that thing, and regardless of that, we're going to welcome you. And so now, our texts read, all religious backgrounds, races, genders, and sexual orientations are welcome here. We embrace people's identities. We embrace their backgrounds. And so we strive to see people, b'tselem Elohim, in God's image. We embrace that each of us is divine. We recognize each other in our fullness. We create sacred community where God is at the center, just like the Mishkan, the tabernacle. We at BJC have been pretty good about being welcoming to those outside the camp, I think. I applaud our hard work with Keshet this year, pronoun stickers for our name tags, updating our B'nai Mitzvah language, gender-neutral calls for Aliyot for the Torah, and more. And I'm so excited to see what else we can do here at BJC and beyond. So may we continue to see each other as created b'tselem Elohim, created in God's image. May we recognize each other as fully human and wonderful and beautiful. May we find pride in all that we are and all that we do. And in so doing, may we build community with God at the center, where each of us feels at home. Amen. Take a few moments to think about the ways we can build that community. In many ways, the sermon I just spoke, the prayer that I just spoke is a prayer for a better tomorrow. And so that's the prayer that we now turn to next, a prayer for Israel by Rabbi Erica Ash. I invite you to please rise. It's on our handout. I believe